What if the strongest decision you'll ever make happens in silence without applause or support? Can one quiet moment of resolve become the foundation of a life built on resilience and self-respect? Discover 5 Stoic truths that will change how you face failure, fear, and the daily temptation to give up. Never give up. It sounds simple, but I know there are days when those words feel impossibly far away. There are mornings when you open your eyes and it feels like life is an endless struggle. Your job is crushing your mind, broken relationships drain your energy, and you start to think, maybe it's time to stop. I'm not here today to offer hollow comfort. I'm here as someone who's looked adversity in the eye. Just as Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And I want to be clear, giving up is the easiest reaction, but it's also the surest way to lose yourself. We give up out of fear, out of disappointment, out of pain that feels unbearable. But understand this, every meaningful journey demands endurance. Sometimes it feels like you're on an emotional roller coaster. Hopeful one day, hopeless the next. That isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you're on a real one. And that's exactly why I want you to listen, not with fleeting emotion, but with steady reason. In this video, I'm going to share 5 reasons drawn from life experience, personal observation, and the Stoic mindset that will show you why you should never give up. But before we begin, leave a comment. I never give up. It's not just a statement, it's a commitment you make to yourself. Because sometimes persistence doesn't just save a dream, it saves you. Number 1. The power of initial decision. I used to think people changed when their circumstances changed, when a better opportunity came along, when someone gave them a chance. But Stoicism taught me the opposite. Every change begins with an internal decision. No one pulls you out of the mud unless you choose to stand up. I remember myself at 12 sitting alone in the corner of a room, hunched over a thick math textbook. The pages were stained with sweat and smeared eraser marks. I couldn't make sense of the problem. The numbers looked like alien code. The more I read, the more lost I felt. My teacher's criticism, the pity in my classmates' eyes, they all came back in vivid detail. I felt foolish, worthless, like I didn't belong, wrapped in a cold blanket of isolation in the middle of winter. I almost stood up, almost gave up. But then a thought surfaced. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. I won't give up. Not because I had a plan, not because I was better than anyone else, but because I didn't want to grow up with the habit of quitting. So I stayed 10 more minutes, then 20, then the whole afternoon. I started writing down each step, each clumsy thought, not to outdo anyone, just to become someone I could respect, someone who doesn't walk away just because it's hard. In Stoicism, this is the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose our response. The world can take many things from us, money, health, even the people we love, but it can't take away the way we decide to face it. When I said I won't give up, I wasn't declaring war on the world. I was signing a contract with myself. In that moment, my brain stopped searching for excuses and started searching for a way forward. A small decision, but carrying a big command. Find a solution, even if it's just one small step. There's something fascinating about the mind. It listens to us more than we realize. When we firmly say, I'm not stopping here, it starts to cooperate. It shifts gears, it focuses. It stops waiting for a miracle and gets to work. I saw this in Jim Bob Arnold, the man who once shared that his life changed because of just 7 words. Don't give up. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Because the moment you stop trying is the exact moment you start losing control over your own destiny. Those words didn't come from a philosophy book or a motivational speech. They came on an ordinary afternoon when young Jim was struggling with a nearly 300-page math book. He had to finish in a week. No one thought he'd do it. His teacher called it a test of patience. His friends joked he'd give up by day 3. Even his parents said, if it's too much, you can stop. But he didn't stop because he had made his decision before he even started. I'm going to finish this. You don't have a secret formula. You just wake up 30 minutes earlier each morning. You read a few more pages each night before bed. Bit by bit, you move forward. A week later, you finish. No one believes it. But you know why? Because you didn't give up. And that exact mindset later made Jim a stockbroker. Not because he was special, but because he refused to surrender. The more I read about Stoicism, the clearer it becomes. Every great journey begins with a decision that seems insignificant. There's no spotlight, no cheering crowd, just you and a voice in your head saying, I choose to keep going. That first decision is like a seed. It doesn't bloom overnight. But if you nurture it, water it with steady action, it will take root deeper than any empty promise ever could. Because you're not waiting for inspiration. You act even when you're unsure, unskilled, or empty-handed. Someone once asked me, How do you not give up when everything's against you? I don't have a feel-good answer. I only have one honest truth. You have to choose to believe in your decision even before it shows any results. Just like Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. If it can be endured, then endure it. Don't complain. That line doesn't sound like a rousing speech, but it holds the pure Stoic spirit. Choose action over complaining. Choose responsibility over blame. Choose to continue simply because it's the right thing to do. We often imagine that successful people have some kind of superpower, but most of the time they only have one thing others don't. They made a decision and stuck with it, no matter the doubts, even their own. You can start today. No perfect plan needed. No waiting to feel confident. Just one sentence spoken clearly in your mind. I won't give up. Then stand up. Then work. Then fail. Then continue. Because when you decide with enough clarity, your inner universe begins to move. It doesn't ask, can I do this? It asks, what's next? And when you live like that long enough, people will start asking, how did you make it this far? You'll smile because you'll know it all started with just one thing, the decision not to give up. Number 2, persistence through failure. I once met a friend, a young, slender, quiet theater director who always carried a worn-out notebook. He told me something I still remember to this day. I will try exactly 100 times, no more, no less. If by the 100th time no one accepts my script, I'll stop, but not before then. That wasn't a spur-of-the-moment statement. It was a vow. The first time he was rejected, he shrugged. The second time he learned from it and revised the structure. The third time, a director laughed in his face and called it a student-level script. The fourth time he was so angry, he tore up the manuscript himself, convinced he wasn't good enough, but he came back, sat down, kept writing. The fifth time, the 6th, the 11th, the 28th, I witnessed that persistence is not a miracle, but as a daily job, quiet, diligent, and then on the 63rd try, a producer picked up the script, read it in silence, nodded, and said 3 words. This can work. This story isn't a miracle. It's the clearest example of something Stoic philosophy always emphasizes. Failure doesn't destroy us. It's how we respond to failure that determines whether we keep moving forward or not. In Stoicism, resilience isn't about blindly enduring. It's about absorbing pain and transforming it into strength. Every failure is not the end. It's an unsuccessful attempt. A map updated with new notes. Don't go this way. Adjust your strategy. Be more patient here. I used to think resilience was something only naturally strong people had. But I was wrong. Resilience is something you build not through hollow advice, but through real battles with real failure. I remember the first time I stood on stage at a student play audition for a minor role. I had rehearsed for 3 weeks, memorized every line, every gesture. I thought I was ready. But after I finished performing, the director looked at me and said, "Thank you, but you're not right for the part." That was it. No feedback, no suggestions, no promise of next time. I walked outside with frozen hands, one thought in my head: I'm not good enough. I nearly threw the script in the trash, but instead, I folded it and wrote on the cover, "First failed audition." I kept it not to blame myself, but to remember this. Everyone starts from disappointment. Each rejection is a patch of land we must dig through to build our own stage. There is no path to the spotlight that doesn't go through darkness. And from that moment on, I made a promise to myself. Next time I'll stand stronger. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." I don't just read this quote, I love it. Every time I face a setback, I repeat it in my head like a soundtrack. Obstacles don't block the path, they are the path. Once you understand that, you stop fearing failure. You start using it. You see it as a tool, like a lever in mechanics. The more resistance, the more leverage. That screenwriter was the same way. Every rejection didn't just hurt. He dissected every critique, learned to sharpen dialogue, tighten pacing, and shift climaxes. By the 63rd draft, success wasn't luck. It was the result of 62 failures recycled into skill. And over time, I realized something interesting. Failure doesn't hurt as much as losing your sense of purpose. Because when you quit, you don't just lose a round, you lose yourself. Stoicism doesn't tell you to feel nothing. On the contrary, it tells you to feel deeply, and from there refine that emotion into right action. You can cry, but then you wipe your tears and keep going, because no one else is going to do that for you. One of the core lessons Stoicism taught me is this: you can't control the world, but you can always control your response. And persistence is a conscious response. When you keep going, you're choosing to resist, not others, but the weaker part of yourself. I once asked a mentor, "How do you deal with the feeling of constantly failing?" He smiled, didn't hesitate, and said, "Keep going. That feeling won't disappear, but it'll get smaller if you get bigger each day. And he was right. At first, failure felt like a punch to the face. Later, it was more like a pat on the shoulder. Didn't work this time. Try again. Not because it hurt less, but because I had learned that pain was useful. That pain had meaning. Stoicism doesn't romanticize pain. It doesn't say pain is good. It only asks, what will you do with it? Will you let it pull you down, or will you use it as a test of your resolve? Out there, the world will always have people who are faster, smarter, luckier, but the world also makes room for those who are more relentless. No one can stop you if you just keep moving forward, and yes, you'll stumble many times. You'll doubt yourself. You'll wake up some mornings and not want to get out of bed. You'll look in the mirror and ask, what the hell am I doing? But if you don't quit little by little, you'll start winning. Not because you got lucky, but because you earned it. Because you chose to get back up again and again and again. So, what will you choose? Try again or give up? Stand up or stay down? You think it's been easy for me? It hasn't. I've been tired. I've stumbled. I've wanted to delete everything. But every time I kept writing, not because I was sure I'd succeed, but because I didn't want to live as someone who gave up. Resilience isn't about never getting knocked down. It's about a commitment. I will get back up every time. That's the true meaning of never give up in Stoicism. And if you really understand this, you won't need anyone else to remind you, because, from now on, you'll become the one who motivates yourself. Number 3. The journey of continuous effort. I used to think that all it took was one breakthrough moment. One surge of intense determination to turn my life around. So I waited for that moment. 1 month, 6 months, a year, and nothing happened. The truth is, no single moment is magical enough to save you from your own procrastination. No one is coming to save you. No one's going to wake you up at 5 a.m., remind you to write, to work out, to stay disciplined. It's just you. And only consistent effort, even the small kind, actually moves you forward. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." That quote hit me like a slap in the face. I used to blame my situation, my low starting point, everything outside my control. But the real weight didn't come from the outside. It came from within, from hesitation, from fear, the fear of taking action, the fear of starting with the very first small step. Stoic philosophy never tells us to do something extraordinary right away. It simply says, stop complaining, act. Seneca warned against the disease of complaining, calling it a kind of poison for the soul. When you keep repeating lines like, I don't have time, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, you're laying down brick by brick the walls of your own prison. And one day you look around and realize no one locked you in. You close the door yourself. Think about this. Every complaint is a heartbeat of inertia. It pulls you back and fuels a negative cycle. You get discouraged, you do nothing. You feel worse. Then you get even more discouraged. On the flip side, every small action, just 10 minutes of focused writing, 15 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of meditation, is a tiny arrow piercing through laziness. You feel like you did something, you see a result, even a small one, and that result gives you a bit of confidence, a bit of motivation, a bit of light. That's how you step out of the darkness, one step at a time. There was a time when I hit a deep low. Every plan fell apart. I was waking up late, losing faith in myself. But instead of trying to fire myself up to do something huge, I did one thing. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I didn't pressure myself to accomplish anything big in that moment. I just had to wake up, get out of bed, and sit still for 5 minutes. The next day I wrote a few lines. The day after that, I reread them. Then I started writing regularly, and eventually I wrote this piece from a habit that seemed small and trivial. I pulled myself out of the mud. I didn't conquer the world. I just beat the version of me from yesterday, and that is the most important win of all. People often think you need to do something grand for it to count as effort, but Stoicism teaches the opposite. Every small step, every repeated action, every consistent habit, that's the foundation of greatness. Greatness doesn't happen in an afternoon. It happens every morning. You sit down at the desk. Every evening you don't run away from discipline. I know many people often ask themselves, how do I start over? The answer is simple but not easy. You start over by starting over. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need to wait for the right time. You just need to begin right now. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start from the imperfect one. Start from where you are. You don't need a grand plan, just one small action. Action creates results. Results build belief. Belief fuels motivation, and then you keep going. I've seen many people choose the easy route. They spend hours scrolling on their phones, sighing about the future and complaining about the present. They feel stuck, and so they keep complaining. Meanwhile, someone who takes initiative spends just 15 minutes each morning writing down 3 small things to do and does just one of them. Just one. Then they return the next day and do it again. 6 months later, the first person is still complaining. The second one is far ahead, further than they imagined. You don't have to sprint. You just need to keep stepping. The Stoics never glorified hustle. They encouraged conscious action. It's about awareness, choosing action over complaints, choosing to take the wheel of your life instead of drifting aimlessly. So don't wait for motivation to start. Let starting be what creates the motivation. You're in pain, write anyway. You're tired, breathe. You're afraid, take the step. Not too fast, not too perfect. Just don't stop. I want you to remember this. You don't need to be extraordinary to deserve effort. It's the daily effort from the smallest things that slowly shapes you into a better version of yourself. Don't wait for the right moment. Create it. Don't chase perfection. Practice persistence. Don't give up. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Because the moment you stop trying is the exact moment you start losing control over your own destiny. If you're starting over, share your story in the comments below. Have you ever been stuck in a rut? How did you break free? Or if you're not sure where to begin, just write, "I will start today." I'll read every single comment. And who knows? Maybe your words will be the push someone else needs. You're not alone on this journey, and neither am I. Number 4, the power of personal choice and commitment. I said I would do it, so I will. Not because anyone forced me, not because someone is waiting for me, but because I made a promise to myself. There are days I jump out of bed with determination, and there are days I just want to disappear. But no matter the mood, no matter the circumstances, I always come back to one question. How have I chosen to live? That question pulls me out of procrastination, out of excuses, out of all those seemingly reasonable reasons that are actually just well-disguised escapes. Stoicism doesn't teach us to always be strong, always be unbreakable. It teaches something deeper. You can be vulnerable, but you must never give up your right to choose. You can be afraid, but don't surrender your power to the situation unconditionally. That's why every change, every progress begins with something that seems deceptively simple. A decision. And once the decision is made, the next step is commitment. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Freedom, the only goal truly worth living for, doesn't lie in money. It doesn't lie in status. It lies in your ability to choose how you respond to everything outside your control. And that only begins when you dare to take responsibility for your own choices. When I was young, I used to ask myself, who am I in this world? I dreamed of many things, but I was also afraid of many things. Afraid of rejection, afraid of failure, afraid of being judged. Then one day I realized I am the only one who gets to decide what happens next in my life. Not my parents, not my partner, not my boss or my friends, me. And in that very moment, I began to practice what the Stoics call inner commitment. Personal commitment doesn't need a grand declaration. It's not a speech in front of a mirror. It's a quiet contract between you and yourself. No witnesses. But if you break it, you'll be the one who feels the shame most deeply. I said I would write every day. So even if no one reads it, I write. I said I would train my body, so even when I'm exhausted, I get up and move. Do you know why? Because if you can't keep your word to yourself, you'll stop believing in yourself. And when you stop believing in yourself, no one else has a reason to believe in you either. Personal commitment is where self-respect begins. It's where willpower takes shape. It's the root of belief in action. I once heard an entrepreneur talk about his early days. He had nothing except for one line taped above his desk. I create, I conquer, I hold the power. That wasn't an empty slogan, it was a way of life. He didn't wait for opportunities. He didn't wait for the perfect timing. He created the conditions, dug his own well, built his own fire, paved his own road. When you live with that kind of initiative, you don't need anyone's permission to begin. You just decide. And once you've decided, you don't stop halfway just because it gets hard, because you're tired, or because you feel good enough. You keep going because you made a promise. Many people go their whole lives never deciding what they're really living for. They drift. They get blown around by the wind. They live according to others' expectations until one day they realize they no longer know who they are. Stoicism reminds us of this. There's nothing more important than choosing your own purpose. And then day by day, every small action you take becomes proof of that commitment. You want to be resilient? You have to choose to be resilient. You want to live with purpose? You have to commit to living with purpose even if no one applauds you. Even if no one agrees. Commitment isn't a fleeting emotion. It doesn't feel good every morning, it's discipline. It's doing what you said you would even after the mood has faded. I once faced a heavy failure. A project collapsed. I lost almost all my money. I lost the trust of a team. I sat staring at the ceiling asking myself, what do I do now? Then I remembered a line I'd written in my notebook. I will not quit. Not because I still had the strength, but because I had made a commitment. And when everything else falls apart, that commitment is the one thing you can still hold on to. It is the foundation of perseverance, the source of survival. No one sees it, but it's there like a steady flame beneath the surface, waiting for you to breathe life into it. So if today you're at your lowest point, I'm not asking if you're still strong. I'm asking, are you still keeping your promise to yourself? If yes, you'll rise. If yes, you'll start again. If yes, you won't need motivation. You'll only need memory. Remember what you once committed to, and know this. Just one small step today means you're honoring that promise. Now you understand where true power lies. Not in these circumstances, not in talent, not in your starting point. It lies in a decision, in a promise, and in keeping that promise over and over every single day. We don't change our lives through giant leaps. We change our lives through one solid choice made consistently without quitting. And if you think this only works when things are going well, wait for what's next. Because the Stoic doesn't just shine in comfort. The Stoic shines brightest in the fire. Next, we'll explore how do you turn adversity into opportunity. This isn't just comforting talk. This is the weapon of the Stoic, and you're about to learn why. Number 5. Turning difficulties into opportunities. When Edison failed for the 1,000th time, he didn't break down. On the contrary, he said, I have not failed. I've just found 1,000,000 ways that won't work. That wasn't blind optimism. It was the mindset of someone who understood deeply. Adversity isn't the enemy. It's a powerful teacher. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb by luck, and he wasn't some born genius, as many might imagine. One thing he held on to throughout the long road of experiments and setbacks was the belief that every fall was a step forward. And that belief is also a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. To the Stoics, failure isn't the end. It's a test, an opportunity, the raw material for building yourself. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Seneca's words aren't just poetic. They are a truth proven over thousands of years. If you want a strong body, you have to train. And if you want an unshakable mind, adversity is the best training ground you'll ever find. I'm not writing this from imagination. I've hit rock bottom before. I've had moments when I thought there's no way I'm getting through this. But I'm still here because I learned something vital. Pain is temporary, but what you learn from it can last forever. At some point, hardship will find you. No one escapes it. You might be betrayed, lose your job, fail at something you poured your heart into, or just wake up one day feeling completely lost. But in those moments, a choice appears. Either you get swallowed by it, or you learn to swim. Stoicism chooses the second path. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." It sounds like a paradox, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. We don't grow during the easy times. We grow when we're forced to make choices in chaos. When we're pushed to the wall, we're forced to find another way to survive, and sometimes that new path is the one we should have taken all along. Someone once asked me, what if I'm weak? What if I'm not strong enough to face hardship? I told them, then you need it more than anyone else. Not because I'm being harsh, but only by confronting your own limits will you truly discover how far you can go. Thomas Edison wasn't born knowing how to invent the light bulb. He failed again and again so many times that an ordinary person would have likely given up by the 50th attempt. But Edison wasn't ordinary. He didn't see failure as the end. He treated it like a map. Every failure was a dead end that helped him narrow the path to the right one. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Don't run from hardship. Don't curse your fate. Instead ask, what can I learn from this? Change the question, and you change your life. And you know what? The power of not giving up isn't about winning or losing. It's about refusing to let your circumstances define who you are. You can lose, you can hurt, you can break. But if you choose to get back up, then you still have control. You still have dignity. You still have a path. I remember once after a project I'd poured months of energy into failed. I wanted to walk away from it all. But after a long night of thinking, I wrote 3 words in my notebook. Learn, rise, move. I learned where I went wrong. I rose and I moved on. Simple, but it saved me. You can do that too. You don't need to wait for everything to be perfect. You don't need to wait until you feel 100% ready. You just need to accept that pain is part of the process. Because if you only act when it's easy, you'll never do anything that truly matters. Stoicism doesn't promise to make life easier. It helps you become someone who can handle what's harder, and that, if you really think about it, is the greatest gift adversity can give you. When life tests you, you have two ways to respond. You can collapse and ask, "Why me?" Or you can lift your head and say, "Let me handle this." I choose the second. And I hope after reading this, you will too. Hardship isn't the obstacle. It is the way. We've been on a journey together from what seemed like a small decision to an entire mindset that helps people stay grounded through life's storms. Not giving up isn't just a slogan. It's how Stoics live. Accepting reality, taking steady action, and staying true to themselves. From that first moment of resolve, through every failure and into the habit of daily effort, all of it builds the foundation that moves you forward. Now, it's your turn to share in your life. Was there ever a moment when you wanted to give up but didn't? What helped you hold on? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, share it with someone who needs a lift, and hit subscribe so you don't miss more powerful lessons from Stoic philosophy. Are you ready to rise again? Let's begin with Stoicism by your side. Don't give up. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Because the moment you stop trying is the exact moment you start losing control over your own destiny.